3 missed calls and 12 unread messages. Same pattern, different day. I already knew who it was, my sister, Emma, probably with another urgent crisis that somehow needed my wallet to solve. My phone buzzed again as I rubbed my temples, staring at the spreadsheet on my screen. The numbers blurred for a second before coming back into focus. Client deadlines, marketing reports, and yet, all I could think about was how I'd been carrying my family's burdens for the past 3 years. It started after Dad, or James as I'd begun to think of him, lost his job. "Just for a while, Ryan," he'd said. "We'll get back on our feet soon." But that while turned into 3 exhausting years. I paid their mortgage $1,200 a month so they wouldn't lose the house. I covered Evan's rent when he was between jobs, which, let's be honest, was code for playing video games in his apartment. And Emma? She called it borrowing when she needed money for her kids' school supplies. But borrowing implies you pay it back. I didn't mind helping at first. Family sticks together, right? That's what I kept telling myself, even as I skipped vacations, delayed buying my own place, and ate instant noodles more often than any grown man should. They'll appreciate it, I told myself. They love me. But love shouldn't feel this one-sided. And yet, every month, like clockwork, the transfers went out. I was their safety net, their lifeline. But what did I get in return? A voicemail from Dad. "Ryan, the transfer hasn't come through yet. Your mom's worried about the bills." A text from Emma. "Hey, can you send an extra $300? Evan's in trouble again." I was drowning, but they didn't even notice. The worst part? I hadn't even realized how much of myself I'd given away. Not until that Tuesday morning when everything changed. "OMG, have you seen this?" The subject line alone gave me pause. It was from Michael, my cousin. I almost didn't open it, just another distraction while I was drowning in work. But something made me click. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I was just looking for a reason to procrastinate. Either way, I had no idea that 43 seconds of video would change everything. The attachment took a while to load on the office Wi-Fi, and I tapped my pen against my desk while waiting. I was halfway through another sip of coffee when the video finally played. Christmas. My parents' living room. The familiar twinkling lights. The same decorations we'd had since I was a kid. Laughter echoed from off-camera. My stomach clenched as I realized it was last year's Christmas gathering, the one I missed because of a work emergency. I stayed late at the office to finish a project that would secure my promotion more money to keep them comfortable. I had told myself it was worth it. Then I heard Emma's voice. "Thank God Ryan couldn't make it. We can actually enjoy ourselves now." "What?" I froze, the warmth from the coffee turning ice cold in my stomach. "He's so uptight these days," she continued, her words dripping with irritation. "Always talking about work, like we care about his marketing strategies." Laughter erupted. Evan chimed in next. "As long as the money keeps coming, I'm fine with it." He raised his glass. "To Ryan, our personal ATM. Our personal ATM." The words echoed in my mind, louder than the laughter. My mom Grace spoke next, her voice softer but no less painful. "Well, his fancy job is paying for this Christmas dinner, so I can put up with his attitude." Another round of laughter. James, my dad, added the final dagger. "Cheers to Ryan, keeping us afloat so we don't have to." They toasted to me, to my sacrifices, to the fact that I was nothing more than a walking, talking bank account to them. I didn't even realize my hands were trembling until my coffee spilled onto my desk. I slammed the cup down, my heart pounding in my ears. Michael's message was short. "I'm so sorry. I meant to send this to my therapist to show what I've been dealing with in this family. Please call me." But I couldn't call him. I couldn't speak. My stomach lurched, and I barely made it to the office bathroom before throwing up. The taste of betrayal burned worse than the coffee. The fallout of realization. Our personal ATM. Those words haunted me all day, sitting in back-to-back meetings, nodding at the right moments, pretending I was fine when inside I was breaking apart. Every laugh from my colleagues felt distant, muffled by the ringing in my ears. I replayed the video in my mind on an endless loop, each time hoping I'd misheard. But the words never changed. Neither did the smiles on their faces as they drank and celebrated at my expense. 3 years, $95,000. That's how much I had given them. Mortgage payments, rent for Evan, school supplies for Emma's kids, countless emergency expenses, money that could have gone toward my own dreams, a house I had always wanted, a master's degree. I kept postponing, a vacation I hadn't taken in years. I sacrificed everything for them, and in return, they toasted to their golden goose. Anger replaces pain. By the time I got home, I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. I paced around my tiny apartment, the space feeling suffocating now. I looked at the worn-out furniture, the second-hand dishes, the peeling paint on the walls. I had put my own life on hold to fund their comfort, and they laughed about it. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through the endless texts from Emma, Evan, James, and Grace. Requests, demands. Never once had they asked how I was doing. And then it hit me. They never cared. It was never about family. It was about what I could do for them. And I was done being their safety net. I stared at my phone for a long time, my thumb hovering over my mother's most recent text. Ryan, your dad's medication needs refilling. Where's the transfer? I didn't reply. For the first time in my life, I let the phone go to voicemail. I woke up the next morning feeling hollow. For the first time in years, I didn't check my phone immediately. No need to see the usual string of, "Hey, Ryan, can you send?" messages. Our personal ATM. The words echoed in my mind as I stared at the ceiling, the morning light barely seeping through the blinds. I had spent so long believing that taking care of my family was my duty and unspoken contract that I had willingly signed. But contracts can be broken, and mine was already torn to shreds by their laughter. I dragged myself out of bed and went through the motions. Shower, coffee, get dressed. But everything felt mechanical, like I was running on autopilot. I didn't even taste the coffee, just swallowed it down like bitter medicine. By lunchtime, I still hadn't opened any of the missed messages. 23 missed calls, 38 unread texts, all from the same people who toasted to my sacrifices. But I wasn't ready to face them. Not yet. Facing the numbers instead, I did something I had avoided for months. I opened my banking app, $1,200 a month to James and Grace. Mortgage help, $800 a month to Evan. Temporary rent assistance. Just until I get back on my feet, bro. $500 a month to Emma for her kids' school supplies and extracurriculars. Then there were the emergency requests, car repairs, medical bills, birthday gifts. I scrolled through the transactions, my jaw tightening with every swipe. $95,000. That's how much I had given them over the past 3 years. Nearly 6 figures that could have been a down payment on my dream house, or tuition for the master's degree I'd put on hold, or hell, just a well-deserved vacation after years of working 60-hour weeks. But instead, it had funded their lifestyles. And for what? To be mocked behind my back, to be reduced to an ATM. No more. My hands felt steady as I typed an email to my bank. Subject, cancel recurring transfers. The decision that changed everything. The first stared at the screen for a moment, my finger hovering over the send button. My mind screamed at me to hesitate, to give them one more chance. But my heart had already let go. No more, I whispered aloud, as if saying it would make it real. And then I hit send. A notification popped up. Transfers canceled. The weight that lifted off my chest was almost instantaneous, like I had been carrying a boulder on my back for years, and it had finally rolled off. The fallout begins. I barely had time to process the relief before my phone started vibrating again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Emma. Then Evan. Then Dad. 23 missed calls. I ignored them all, but they weren't giving up. My phone lit up with text after text. Emma, hey, Ryan. I noticed the transfer didn't come through. Everything okay? Evan, yo, bro. My landlord's breathing down my neck. I need that money ASAP. James, Ryan, this isn't funny. Your mom's worried sick. Call us. But it was Mom's message that twisted the knife. Grace, Ryan, your father needs his blood pressure medication. If something happens to him, that's on you. Guilt. They knew exactly which strings to pull. The old me would have caved, but not anymore. I stared at the message, my chest tightening with familiar anxiety. The weight of responsibility I had carried for so long threatened to pull me back under, but not this time. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remember the video, their laughter, their toasts, their complete disregard for everything I had sacrificed. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about losing their ATM. I clenched my jaw and typed a response. Me, no transfer this month. I have personal financial matters to take care of. I hit send before I could second guess myself. The response came instantly. Grace, Ryan, this isn't fair. Your father's health is at risk. Evan, dude, seriously? I'm about to get evicted. Emma, the kids need new clothes for school. Please, Ryan. The guilt was suffocating, but then I remembered. They weren't worried about me when they laughed. They didn't care when I was working weekends to keep them comfortable. I turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I chose silence. Finding calm in the chaos that night, I poured myself a glass of wine. I sat by the window of my tiny apartment, the one I had stayed in all these years, because I couldn't justify spending money on myself when they needed it more. But now, the ATM was closed, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I felt free. No more guilt, no more obligations, no more sacrificing myself for people who only saw me as a paycheck. I took a sip, letting the warmth of the wine wash over me, and I smiled. Let them figure it out, because I was done. Desperation kicks. In the next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. I took a long shower, made myself a decent breakfast, and even walked to a nearby cafe for a change of scenery. By the time I checked my phone, I wasn't surprised to see even more missed calls and texts. But one caught my eye. Emma, I'm coming over. We need to talk. Great. I knew this confrontation was inevitable, but this time, I was ready. I knew she was coming before she even buzzed the intercom. Emma. The text she had sent earlier wasn't a question, it was a statement. I'm coming over. We need to talk. There was no can we talk? Or is this a good time? Typical Emma. I stood by the door, my heart pounding as I waited for the inevitable knock. And right on cue, bang, bang. Ryan, open up. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly as I ran my hand through my hair. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to pretend I wasn't home and let her stew. But I knew Emma. She wouldn't leave. She'd keep knocking, maybe even get the neighbors involved. Better to get this over with. I opened the door. The confrontation Emma stood there, her arms crossed, her expression a carefully curated mix of concern and frustration. She looked tired, but not the kind of tired that comes from carrying the weight of others. No. This was the exhaustion of someone who was finally realizing that the gravy train had stopped. Ryan, she said, pushing past me before I could invite her in. We need to talk. I closed the door and turned to face her. I figured. She paced the length of my small apartment, her eyes scanning the space, as if it was her first time really looking at it. Her gaze lingered on the peeling paint, the mismatched furniture, the secondhand bookshelf that was barely holding together. This, she gestured vaguely around the room. This is where you live? I raised an eyebrow. Where did you think I lived, Emma? A penthouse? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to reconcile the image of her successful, high-earning brother with the reality of my modest, one-bedroom apartment. She finally sighed and sank onto the worn-out couch. Ryan, what's going on? Guilt, manipulation, and the same old tactics. I didn't sit. I leaned against the counter, keeping some distance between us. What's going on? I echoed, my voice calm but firm. You mean why I stopped sending money? Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. You can't just cut us off like this. There it was, the same old guilt trip. Dad needs his medication, she said, her tone softening, playing the concerned daughter card. And Evan's landlord is threatening eviction. I folded my arms across my chest. You know what's funny, Emma? For 3 years I've been sending money, paying for Dad's medication, covering Evan's rent, paying for your kids' school supplies. And not once did anyone ask if I was okay. Not once did any of you care how I was doing. Her face flushed. That's not fair. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You toasted to me at Christmas, Emma. To me being your personal ATM. Her eyes widened. You saw that? I nodded, my jaw clenched. Yeah, Michael sent me the video. Silence. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But then, just like that, it was gone, replaced by the same old entitlement. Ryan, she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. We didn't mean it. You know how we get after a few drinks? We were just joking. I clenched my jaw, fighting back the anger that bubbled up. Jokes are supposed to be funny, Emma. That wasn't funny. That was humiliating. She looked away, her fingers nervously picking at the hem of her sweater. Look, I know we messed up, okay? But we're family. We take care of each other. Do we? I asked quietly, because from where I'm standing, it looks like I was the only one doing the taking care part. Choosing myself for once, her silence was louder than any words she could have said. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I had spent so long putting their needs above my own that I had forgotten what it felt like to choose myself, to prioritize my own happiness, my own dreams. And now that I had tasted that freedom, I wasn't going back. I can't do it anymore, Emma, I said softly, but firmly. I can't keep sacrificing my life, my dreams, just so you can live comfortably. It's not fair, and I'm done. Her eyes filled with tears. Ryan, what are we supposed to do? I sighed, the weight of years of expectations and guilt pressing down one last time before I let it go. Figure it out, the same way I had to. Her mouth opened, ready to argue, but she saw something in my eyes, something that told her this wasn't a negotiation. This was a boundary. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Okay, Ryan. Discovering who I really am after Emma left, I expected to feel empty, but instead, I felt lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their expectations on my shoulders. And that freedom, it was intoxicating. In the weeks that followed, I did something revolutionary. I started living for myself. I signed up for that photography class I had always talked about, but never had the time or money for. I spent my weekends at the beach, capturing sunsets and waves, feeling more alive with every click of the shutter. I even started looking at real estate listings, not for a house big enough to host family gatherings, but for a home that was mine, my dreams, my future, my life. And for the first time, it felt possible, learning to let go. Of course, the guilt still crept in sometimes. Years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. But every time I felt that familiar pang, I reminded myself of the video, of their laughter, of how little they thought of me beyond what I could do for them. They had shown me who they were, and I believed them. I wasn't cutting them off completely. I still sent gifts to Emma's kids for their birthdays. I replied to the occasional text from Mom, though I kept the conversations brief. But I was no longer their ATM. A taste of true freedom. 3 months after I canceled the transfers, I booked my first real vacation in years. Hawaii. I stood on the beach, the sand warm beneath my feet, the sound of the waves soothing my soul in ways I didn't know I needed. I took a deep breath, letting the salty air fill my lungs, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Because this was what life was supposed to feel like. Hawaii had been everything I needed, and more. For the first time in years, I had no deadlines, no emergency requests, no late-night texts asking for money. It was just me, my camera, and the endless stretch of ocean that seemed to whisper, "You're finally free." But freedom has a funny way of making you confront things you've been avoiding. When I returned home, the silence was different. It wasn't the kind that used to weigh me down, making me feel alone. This silence felt peaceful until I checked my mail. A letter from the past. Ryan, please read this. The handwriting was familiar Grace's. I stood there, holding the envelope like it was a ticking time bomb. Part of me wanted to toss it straight into the trash, but curiosity, that stubborn little voice in my head, wouldn't let me. I set my bag down, poured a glass of water, and sat at the kitchen table. I took a deep breath and opened the envelope. My dearest Ryan, it began. Dearest, already different from the clipped, guilt-ridden texts I'd grown used to. I've been meaning to write this for a while, but I didn't know where to begin. I guess I'll start with the truth. I blinked, my eyes scanning the words, my chest tightening with every sentence. We were wrong, so terribly wrong. Not just that night when we laughed at your expense, but for years. We took you for granted, Ryan. We treated your success as something we were entitled to, instead of something you worked so hard for. And for that, I'm truly sorry. My throat felt tight. When the money stopped, everything fell apart. We had to face realities we had been avoiding for years. Your father, he had to ask his brother for help. Evan moved back home after his eviction. And Emma, she's struggling to keep up with the kids' needs without your help. But it's not your fault, Ryan. It never was. We should have never put that burden on you. My fingers tightened around the paper. I've had a lot of time to think these past few months. And I realized something. We never asked what you wanted, what you needed. We never cared enough to ask if you were okay. I am so sorry for that, son. I know I can't take back the years of neglect, but I hope maybe one day we can start again. Not with money, not with obligations, but with love and respect. The letter ended simply. Whenever you're ready, we're here. But only when and if you're ready. With love and regret, Mom. Emotions I wasn't ready, for I stared at the letter for a long time, my vision blurring as emotions I thought I had buried came crashing to the surface. Anger, sadness, relief, hope. But hope is a dangerous thing. I had spent too many years hoping they would change, hoping they would see me as more than a wallet with a pulse. And yet, this letter? It felt different. For the first time, there was no manipulation, no guilt, just raw honesty, a battle inside me. I spent the next few days trying to sort through the chaos in my head. Part of me wanted to believe that they had finally changed, that we could rebuild something real. But another part, it didn't trust them. And maybe that was okay. Trust takes time. I had spent so long giving everything to them that I had forgotten what it felt like to put myself first. And I wasn't ready to give that up. Not yet. But I also wasn't ready to burn the bridge completely. My turn to speak. A week after I received Grace's letter, I sat down and wrote one of my own. Dear Mom, the words came easier than I expected. Thank you for your letter. I've read it many times, and I appreciate your honesty. I won't lie, it hurt to read, but it also gave me something I didn't realize I needed: closure. My pen hovered for a moment before I continued. For 3 years, I gave everything I had to make sure our family was okay. I sacrificed my dreams, my comfort, and my peace of mind. And in return, I was mocked and treated like an ATM. I won't pretend that's easy to forgive. I paused, taking a deep breath. But I also know that people can change. And while I'm not ready to fully open that door again, I'm willing to leave it unlocked. I was honest, brutally honest. If we're going to rebuild this relationship, it has to be different. No more money, no more obligations, just family. If you can accept that, then maybe we have a chance. I signed it with something I hadn't felt in a long time. With love and boundaries, Ryan. Letting go of the past, I mailed the letter the next morning. I didn't expect a reply, not right away. And that was okay, because I wasn't waiting for validation anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't living for their approval. I wasn't sacrificing my happiness for their comfort. I was living for me. A new chapter. The seasons changed. Spring brought new life, and with it, a version of myself I was just beginning to discover. I spent more time outdoors, my camera capturing moments that felt real. I signed up for more photography classes, found a community of people who shared my passion, and even started planning an exhibit of my work. My work, not the work that paid bills for others, not the work that kept my family comfortable, the work that fed my soul. A home that was truly mine. And then, one Saturday morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I walked into a cozy little townhouse, nothing fancy, but it had charm. Hardwood floors, a small garden out back, and plenty of natural light for my photos. Mine. I signed the papers without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I was building something for myself. A new kind of connection. A few weeks later, I got an email from Grace. Thank you for your letter, Ryan. I'm proud of you. We'll wait however long it takes. Love, Mom. I didn't reply right away. I wasn't ready for that. But one day, maybe. Walking toward my future that evening, I took my dog for a walk through my new neighborhood. The air smelled of spring flowers, and the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. This was peace. This was freedom. As I stood there, watching the horizon, I realized something. The price of being loved shouldn't be the sacrifice of your own well-being. In some relationships, they cost too much, but I was finally brave enough. To close the account, story 2, I had always been the dependable one in the family, the rock, the one who dropped everything when my sister, Emily, needed me. Whether it was driving across town to comfort her after a breakup, helping her move apartments twice, or covering half her rent when she lost her job, I was there, every single time. So when I got the text, I assumed it was a joke. Hey, just wanted to let you know the guest list is finalized, and we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. Tough cuts? I blinked at my screen, reading it again, as if the words might magically rearrange themselves. I wasn't a distant cousin or an old family friend they hadn't seen in years. I was her brother. I had been by her side through every heartbreak and celebration, but now I was cut from her wedding guest list. A cold wave of disbelief washed over me. My initial reaction was to laugh, but the longer I stared at the message, the tighter the knot in my chest grew. This had to be a mistake. There was no way Emily would do this to me. I picked up the phone and called my mom, hoping for some logical explanation. She answered on the second ring, her usual upbeat tone making my stomach twist. Hey, sweetheart, what's up? I didn't waste time with small talk. I just got a message from Emily. She says the guest list is finalized, and I'm not on it. There was a pause. Not the casual kind where someone needs a second to think, but the kind that confirms your worst fears. Oh, honey, Mom sighed, her voice slipping into that patronizing tone she used whenever she thought I was being unreasonable. It's just a wedding. Don't make a big deal out of this. Just a wedding? Mom, I'm her brother, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. How am I not invited to my own sister's wedding? She had to keep the list small, she said, as if that made any sense. Weddings are expensive. I'm sure she thought you wouldn't mind. Not mind? My mind raced as I processed her words. Mom, I've been there for Emily through everything. I've dropped everything to help her. And now, I'm not important enough to be at her wedding? Sweetheart, she sighed, clearly exasperated. You're overreacting. It's just one day. But it wasn't just one day. It was a symbol of everything I had done for her, tossed aside like it meant nothing. I didn't argue further. I knew how this would go. I'd get angry. Mom would minimize it. Emily would give a half-hearted apology after the wedding, and I'd be expected to forgive and forget. Not this time. Something inside me cracked, and I was done. If I wasn't worthy of an invitation, then I wasn't going to stick around and pretend everything was fine. I hung up without saying another word and stared at my phone. If I wasn't going to Emily's wedding, I was going to be somewhere a hell of a lot better. I grabbed my laptop and started searching for flights. I wasn't just booking a getaway. This was a statement. I deserved better, and I was about to give myself that. Less than an hour later, I had booked a week-long stay at a 5-star resort in the Caribbean. Ocean views, spa services, unlimited margaritas, and a suite that screamed you made the right choice. When the wedding weekend rolled around, I was already on a plane, sipping champagne in first class. I made sure to document the moment. A perfectly framed shot of my legs stretched out, drink in hand, and the caption, "Guess I didn't make the guest list, but I think I'll survive." The reactions were almost immediate. My cousins sent laughing emojis, and my aunt, the only sensible one in the family, commented, "Good for you. Wish I was there with you." But the best reaction, it came from my mother. "Where are you? Are you seriously missing your sister's wedding over this? You're being petty." Petty? Oh, I was just getting started. I responded with a photo of the beach, white sand, crystal clear water, and not a care in the world. Sorry, too busy overreacting. Enjoy the wedding. Then I turned off my phone and let the ocean breeze wash away any lingering guilt. For once, I was putting myself first, and it felt incredible. I didn't look back, not once. The moment I landed in the Caribbean, I felt it, the weight of my family's nonsense lifting off my shoulders. The salty ocean breeze kissed my skin, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore felt like nature herself, telling me I'd made the right choice. I was free. A sleek, black SUV was waiting for me outside the airport, complete with chilled towels and bottled water in the back seat. As the driver navigated along the coastline, I stared out at the endless stretch of turquoise water, the sun shimmering off the surface like 1,000 tiny diamonds. Yeah, this was way better than standing around pretending to be happy at a wedding where I wasn't even wanted. The resort? Unreal. The kind of place you see on those Instagram travel pages and think, no way that's real. Palm trees framed the open-air lobby, where they greeted me with a cold cocktail before I even checked in. The suite? Floor-to-ceiling windows that opened to a private balcony with an ocean view that took my breath away. A king-sized bed that looked like it could swallow me whole. And the best part? Silence. No family drama. No guilt trips. Just peace. I dropped my bags and stepped onto the balcony, letting the warm breeze brush against my face. I took a deep breath and let the tension drain out of me. Then, just to make sure the universe knew I was thriving, I snapped a picture of the view. White sand, crystal clear water, and palm trees swaying in the breeze. When one door closes, another one opens, preferably to a beachside suite with unlimited margaritas. I hit post and smiled as I watched the comments roll in. Cousin Jake, dude, where are you? Aunt Lisa. Okay, now you're just showing off. College buddy bro, invite me next time. This looks insane. But the best part? Emily saw the post. Oh, I lived for that moment. I imagined her sitting in the bridal suite, champagne in hand, scrolling through Instagram and seeing me living my best life while she was stressing over her picture-perfect wedding. Good. Let her see. The next day was pure bliss. I woke up to the sound of waves, ordered room service that put any wedding buffet to shame, and spent the morning lounging on the balcony with a coffee that tasted like heaven. By noon, I was stretched out by the infinity pool, a martini in one hand and not a care in the world. I wasn't ignoring my phone exactly. I was just selectively disinterested. I checked Instagram occasionally, mainly to enjoy the comments flooding in about my trip. The likes, the wish I was there comments, and the laughing emojis, they were fuel, but the messages from my family, ignored. Until something shifted. It was around sunset when my phone started going off. At first, I ignored it, figured it was just more reactions to my posts. But when the vibrations wouldn't stop, I glanced at the screen. Missed calls from Mom, text from Jake, voicemail from Emily, even Uncle Rob. I raised an eyebrow. What now? I unlocked my phone and skimmed through the messages, but it was Jake's text that made me sit up straight. Bro, you are not going to believe what just happened. Okay, now I was curious. I scrolled through the texts, and with every new message, a slow grin spread across my face. The groom walked out. Yup, you read that right. During the reception, apparently Emily and her fiancé had some huge blowout argument right there in front of everyone, and the guy just left. Walked right out of the venue. Guests were whispering. The venue staff was scrambling, and Grandma crying. Jake, dude, you dodged a bullet. Mom, call me. This is a family emergency. Emily, please. I need you. Oh, now I was important. I sat back in my lounge chair, took a sip of my drink, and let the news sink in. Emily, who had cut me out of her wedding, was now the one blowing up my phone, desperate for me to come fix the mess. Sorry, I muttered to no one in particular. I'm a little busy enjoying my overreaction. I typed out a quick response to Emily. Hope the wedding was fun. I'm a little tied up at the moment. Enjoy. And then I blocked her number. Blocked my mom's too. I wasn't about to get dragged back into the chaos. Not this time. They had made their choice, and now they could live with it. I was in paradise, and I wasn't about to let them ruin that. 2 days later, I was still living my best life. Sun, sand, and cocktails. morning spa treatments, afternoon naps by the pool, and 5-star dinners that made me question everything I'd ever eaten before. But then, another text. This time, from Melissa, my cousin. Okay, I know you're mad. And honestly, you have every right to be. But you have to hear this. Call me. You're going to love it. Melissa was one of the few family members with common sense, so I figured if she was reaching out, it was probably worth hearing. I called her back. About time, she said, picking up on the first ring. I could hear the excitement in her voice. Are you sitting down? I glanced around at my shaded cabana, the ocean stretching out in front of me, and the ice-cold cocktail in my hand. Yeah, I said, smirking. I think I'm in a good place for whatever this is. Melissa didn't waste time. After the groom walked out, Emily lost it, she said, her voice brimming with barely contained laughter. And I don't mean a few tears. I mean full-on meltdown, yelling, throwing stuff, bridesmaids crying, the whole 9 yards. I raised an eyebrow. Wow. Okay, but wait. It gets better, Melissa continued, her tone practically dripping with anticipation. Aunt Lisa, and I kid you not, told everyone this wouldn't have happened if you had been there. I almost choked on my drink. What? Yup, Melissa giggled. She said you're the only one who ever knew how to calm Emily down, and that if you'd been there, you would have kept her from losing her mind. I leaned back, laughing so hard my stomach hurt. Oh, the irony. So let me get this straight, I said, wiping away a tear. They didn't invite me because I wasn't important enough, but now they're blaming me because I wasn't there to fix it? Pretty much, Melissa said, laughing, and Mom backed her up. But then Grandma chimed in and said, I waited, biting my lip to keep from laughing. She said, Melissa continued, barely able to contain herself. If Emily had treated her family better, she wouldn't be alone in her wedding dress right now. I was dying. Grandma really said that? I wheezed, struggling to breathe. Yup, poetic, freaking, justice. But the cherry on top? Emily's attempts to save the wedding? Total failure. The groom's family wanted nothing to do with her after the drama. They packed up and left, leaving her to clean up the mess, literally and figuratively. Mom tried to do damage control by calling the groom's family, but his mother? Oh, she wasn't having it. This is your mess now, was all she said before hanging up. I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. By the end of the call with Melissa, I was grinning ear to ear. The best part? I didn't care. They had cut me out of their lives, assumed I'd always be there to clean up their mess, and now they were drowning in the aftermath. And me? I was sipping cocktails by the ocean, living the life they thought I wasn't important enough to be part of. So how's Emily now? I asked, purely out of curiosity. Still crying, Melissa said. Still blaming everyone but herself. Last I heard, she's trying to figure out some backup plan, but let's be honest, it's over. Good luck with that, I muttered, taking another sip. And that's when it hit me. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their burdens. I wasn't the family fixer. I was just me, and it felt damn good. I raised my glass, watching the sunset paint the sky with shades of orange and pink, and whispered, to zero regrets. I woke up to the sound of waves crashing softly against the shore. The early morning sun filtered through the sheer curtains of my suite, bathing the room in a warm golden glow. For a moment, I just lay there, letting the serenity sink in. No buzzing phone, no frantic messages, no guilt, just me, the ocean, and the freedom I never realized I had been craving. I stretched lazily, my muscles pleasantly sore from days of lounging by the pool, walking along the beach, and indulging in spa treatments that had practically melted the stress out of my body. My stomach growled, reminding me that breakfast was calling. I glanced at the clock, 8:00 a.m. Plenty of time for one more lazy morning before deciding if I'd spend the day on a catamaran cruise or take another nap under a palm tree. Life was good. I grabbed my phone out of habit, and that's when I saw it. 27 missed calls, 14 voicemails, countless texts. Even after blocking half my family, they had found ways to get through. Unknown numbers, friends I hadn't spoken to in years, even a couple of neighbors. I sighed and set the phone down without opening a single message. Not today, I muttered, standing up and stretching as I stepped out onto the balcony. The ocean stretched out endlessly before me, waves rolling gently onto the shore. I took a deep breath, letting the salty air fill my lungs, grounding me in the present. They could wait. I ordered breakfast, fluffy pancakes, tropical fruit, and the smoothest coffee I'd ever tasted, and enjoyed every bite while the sun warmed my skin. When I finally gave in to curiosity and scrolled through the messages, I couldn't help but laugh. Mom, you need to stop acting like a child and come home. Emily is heartbroken. Emily, I can't believe you're doing this to me. I need you. Please call. Unknown probably. Aunt Lisa. The family needs to fix this before it's too late. Oh, the irony. They hadn't needed me when they were planning the wedding. But now that everything had crumbled around them, I was suddenly their lifeline. Too bad, I muttered under my breath, deleting the messages one by one. But one message made me pause. Melissa, okay, I know you're ignoring everyone, and I don't blame you. But I figured I'd give you a heads up. Mom's trying to organize a family meeting when you get back. Just thought you should know, I snorted, shaking my head. A family meeting. Of course. They probably expected me to waltz back in, listen to their half-hearted apologies, and sweep everything under the rug like I always did. They had no idea that this version of me, the one who had finally tasted peace, he wasn't coming back. I typed a quick reply to Melissa. Thanks for the warning, but I won't be there. Her response came almost instantly. Wait, what do you mean? Exactly what I said, I replied. I'm extending my trip. They wanted me out of their lives for the wedding. Now they can deal with the aftermath without me. I could almost see her jaw drop through the screen. A minute later, she sent back, that's iconic. Tell me everything when you get back. Whenever that is. Lol. I grinned and set my phone down. Extending my stay was the easiest decision I'd ever made. Within minutes, I had booked another week at the resort. I wasn't ready to go back. Not to the chaos, the guilt, or the endless cycle of being the family fixer. For once, I was putting myself first, and it felt amazing. The next few days blurred together in the best possible way. Mornings were for long walks along the beach, where the waves kissed my feet and the sand felt warm between my toes. Afternoons were spent either by the pool or napping in a hammock with a good book. And the evenings? Sunset dinners by the water, where the seafood was fresh, the wine was perfectly chilled, and the sound of the ocean was the only conversation I needed. No stress, no drama, just peace. But even paradise couldn't keep the real world at bay forever. A week later, I made the mistake of turning my phone back on. The flood of notifications was insane. More missed calls, more voicemails, more texts. But one message, buried in the chaos, caught my eye. Melissa, okay, you're going to love this. Call me when you have time. I hesitated for half a second before dialing her number. About time, she answered on the first ring, her voice dripping with excitement. Are you still in paradise, or have you come back to reality? Still in paradise, I said, grinning as I stretched out on the balcony, the sun warming my skin. But I figured whatever this is, it's worth hearing. Oh, trust me, it is. Melissa didn't disappoint. Emily's meltdown wasn't the end of it, she began, barely able to contain her laughter. After the wedding fell apart, Mom and Aunt Lisa tried to do damage control. They called the groom's family, trying to smooth things over, but I raised an eyebrow. But what? The groom's mom wasn't having it. She told them point blank, "This is your mess now. We're done." I nearly spit out my drink. Wait, seriously? Oh, it gets better, Melissa said, her voice dripping with amusement. Emily tried to patch things up herself. She called him like a million times, but he blocked her. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. So, what's Emily doing now? Melissa sighed, her tone shifting to something softer, still blaming everyone but herself. She's convinced the universe is punishing her, and Grandma isn't helping. I blinked. Wait, what did Grandma do? Oh, Melissa said, laughing softly. Grandma told her, if you had treated your family better, you wouldn't be standing here alone in your wedding dress. I had to set my drink down before I dropped it. Grandma really said that? Yup, right in front of everyone. God, I loved that woman. But here's the kicker. Mom had actually convinced herself that I was the missing piece in all this. She was telling anyone who would listen that, if I had been there, I would have calmed Emily down, kept the groom from leaving, and somehow magically saved the entire disaster. They're still blaming me? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Oh yeah, Melissa said. But you know what's funny? Deep down, I think they know this is all on them. They just don't want to admit it. I sat back, letting her words sink in. They knew. Of course they did. But admitting it? Taking responsibility? That wasn't part of the family playbook. Let them keep blaming me, I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I'm not carrying their mess anymore. When I finally headed back home, I was different, lighter, freer. The guilt that had once chained me down was gone. The version of me who had always dropped everything to fix their problems, he wasn't coming back. When I walked into my apartment, it felt different, like I was stepping into a new chapter of my life, one where I was in control. But just in case they still didn't get the message, I posted one last photo, a shot of the sunset from my last night at the resort, the sky painted with shades of orange and pink that felt like a promise of better days. The caption, "Zero regrets. Best decision I ever made." And with that, I turned my phone off. They wanted a life without me? Fine, they could have it. Because I was finally living a life where I mattered, and I wasn't giving that up for anything.